Welcome into the DNVR Rockies podcast, brought to you by Strava Craft Coffee. Remember to use the promo code DNVR25. You'll get 25% off your entire purchase of that CBD-infused, deliciously rich, and potentially life-altering Strava Craft Coffee. I'm your host, Drew Creasman. I'm the managing editor of DNVR Rockies. With me, as always, is beat writer Patrick Lyons. And on this episode, we talk sweeping the Snakes on out of Coors Field. Makayla Perkins, our very own, called for it coming into the set. She said, I know it sounds weird. They've been bad. We know they've been a different team at home. The Diamondbacks are banged up. The Rockies are much better at home. They're due for some good mojo. She called a sweep for this team in this economy, Patrick. And there it was. Got a little close there at the end, but Trevor Story with the big blast to center field makes it official. 3 in a row over a divisional opponent and out of the cellar in the NL West.
The Colorado Rockies are officially St. Patrick because they've removed the Snakes from out of Coors Field. Right? Like the great St. Patrick did for all of Ireland. You got to love that. And yeah, they looked really solid. They look like a real baseball team. You know, they're no longer Pinocchio. They're like a real baseball team. And again, we know where there are going to be those flashes throughout this difficult and challenging season. And it's nice that you get to see that at home. Yeah, sure, you want it to happen on the road as well. But you know what? You pay a ticket to go to Coors Field. You do want to leave feeling good. And, you know, for the last 3 days with an increased capacity, the no masks, I think people, you know, leaving Coors Field are feeling a little bit happier and maybe a little more willing to plunk down some of that extra cash to go to some of those all-star game festivities. And again, it's just good to see the team not seem like they're in the disarray that they are, right? They might not have focus, they might not have direction, but you know what? Baseball's 162 games a year. You can't lose all of them. Even when you try, even when you tank and you try, you can't lose all of them. And you know what? This is definitely a weekend to celebrate for the team and the organization. Good all around effort by so many different people this weekend for the sweep.
Yeah, it's an amazing feeling, right? Because baseball is both of those things. It's this big, huge marathon long 162 game wide. And not only that, like you said, it's also a thing you've really got to think about building your team and your franchise, especially right now when you're the Rockies, in terms of 4, 5 year, 10-year long plans. And so you've got all of this other stuff to think about, but then it is just like you have a game every single day and you sit down for anywhere from 2.5 hours. If you're lucky, you're getting a 7-inning doubleheader, or you got some pitchers really out there throwing strikes, to 4.5 hours if you're watching Yankees, Red Sox. But you, at the end of that, you just want to feel like you saw some good baseball. Your team played well, and if they deserved to win, they did. And you got 3 of those in a row out of the Rockies here. And that was kind of, like you said, this is kind of every element of the team. There's really only one guy, and I don't want to center him out as a problem because I feel for the young man, but really Yency Almonte had a terrible series, but he's the only guy on the roster you could say that about. Everybody else did some stuff, contributed, was either pretty good to very good. And you love to see it, as Makayla would say if she was here.
You do. And you start to kind of see the value again that so many of these guys have on the team. And, you know, they all kind of go in one group or another. We know there's some guys that aren't going to be with the team for the long haul, some of those older veteran guys. And you've got so many inexperienced players. And again, take those older guys and say, hey, look what they can do on the field. And you saw a lot of positivity that this weekend for the most part. And the young guys, even more so, you're happy about what you saw from them. You see Josh Fuentes continuing after, you know, being player of the week last week and spending some time riding the pine for better or worse. But you know what? That mixing and matching, I think, is by Bud Black. He's doing a good job, really, you know, kind of trying to protect some of those young guys. And you saw it, you know, yesterday with Mad Bum on the mound where Ryan McMahon didn't get the start. And you want him to get those starts. But again, this is a 162 game season. So But he, pushed the right buttons for that, and Fuentes went out, had a pair of doubles today. The second run that came across the plate, Tapia got in on the RBI action, and then again, it ends in a punctuation with Trevor Story doing the damn thing on a solo home run, a guy who kind of needs it. And you look at his numbers, and they're good, but they're not what we know Trevor Story to be doing or what we expect for him to be doing. A guy that, again, you're going into the season and you say, yeah, he's probably the favorite to be the starting shortstop on the National League All-Star team and represent the Rockies there in Coors Field. And now maybe not so much, but it's games like this, it's series like this where you begin to maybe change a little your perspective on certain players. I think our perspective on the team is right where it needs to be.
Yeah.
I don't know that it changes anything, but regardless, again, give me 3 in a row rather than 3 random wins over the course of the week here and there. It's something to build on, something to make the guys feel better. It's something that's going to bring this clubhouse together even more so. Like, we know this clubhouse is a tight-knit group. You see it with Scott Oberg being around the team. You've seen it in the past with Kyle Freeland sticking around and traveling with the club. They don't want to be down in Scottsdale to work on their stuff. They want to be around the guys. And this is a moment where you go, they all want the MVP chain. You saw it yesterday in Carlos Estevez. He was so proud of it with his inning and a third pitch. And so it's, again, these are the things of what 2021 is going to be about, celebrating those high moments and trying to flush out the bad ones. But we're at a high right now. We're at a high.
Yeah. And you got to have and I'm 100% with you. I was even thinking about it. I was like, thinking about kind of making the point, because every once in a while when they go to California and they lose 3 straight games and they score 1 run on 12 hits and they do all that stuff. And I will invariably get a bunch of people, on social media or even here in our comments, and I welcome it. Hop on YouTube and bring it all and say, God, Drew, do you really still think this team isn't going to lose 100 games? Look at how pathetic they are. How could you possibly? And I'm tempted to then turn around after a series like this and say, well, this is how. But really, it's neither of those things. Like you just said, I don't think there's anything that's happened yet in the series that should shake anybody off of what their preseason predictions were for this team. Whether you thought they were going to lose 100, I can understand why you're sitting there going, I still think they're going to lose 100. Or if you're like me and you thought they were closer to winning 70, and you're like, again, what evidence do I have that they can do that? Because they're not going to play the Giants, the Padres, and the Dodgers every single series. There are more beatable teams. There are some bad teams in baseball that they're going to get to play at some point. The Diamondbacks were one of them. And so, so that certainly helped. But, I agree with you too, that these are the kinds of moments that really help, build that camaraderie, and we'll see who's around in the future. But you talk about, Bud Black pulling the right strings. There's been plenty of conversation about, will he be the guy in the future for the next iteration of this team or not? But sitting Ryan McMahon after he hit 2 home runs in a game because of a tough lefty matchup. But then what happens? The offense goes out and hangs 6-7 runs on Mad Bum, so you can't really fault them there. Then you look at the other side of it. Okay, but in the long run, did he mess up Mac? Mac hits a double that starts the rally that ties the game for the Rockies late in the 8th inning in this one. So you go, actually, no, he's given these guys these moments. McMahon was able to come through in some big spots and have a really big set here and not, react negatively to being sat down a day after hitting 2 home runs, which some guys would be like, what the hell, man?
Yeah, the DBacks kryptonite has been Ryan McMahon. His 3-run homer game earlier this year in late April, also against the D-backs. So he's kind of finding his rhythm there. But you're right. Hey, no harm, no foul. They were still able to get the win. You included CJ's Chrome bat in the lineup when, again, he's, for better or worse, a veteran that you do need to showcase a little bit. That's the other element to this, is that, just because you have an older guy on the squad doesn't mean, oh man, everyone's gonna be knocking down your door for him, to be a trade acquisition for their club. No, you have to showcase that guy a little bit. So that does mean that for, the short term, Cron is going to have those opportunities when, you want Connor Joe, or you want Fuentes at first, or McMahon at first and Rogers at third, whatever mixing and matching you want to do. You want to have your cake and eat it too, but unfortunately that's not the way it goes. So I think it's still, in the long run, it'll all come out in the wash. And McMahon's still going to get his 500 plus plate appearances. Still going to have a great opportunity at representing the Rockies for the All-Star game. And you and I, we went different ways. I mean, we didn't go very far apart. But you thought, hey, Rockies 4th, DBacks 5th. I thought DBacks 4th, Rockies 5th. And right now, as you put it, you are the right man. You are the right man. And
a half game.
the other cool, hey, take it, right? The other cool thing that I like about this victory too, and the sweep, is the Rockies had tied for the longest losing streak in the National League this year, 7 games.
7.
Tied with Cincinnati. But now the D-backs have lost 8. So there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, we like those interesting narratives, like beating the Dodgers in a series last year. Well, hey, now the Rockies don't have the longest losing streak in the National League right now. And yeah, the D-backs are definitely struggling, to say the least. And so you love to see it.
You do indeed. If you had the Rockies sweeping this set, if you were listening to Makayla, or you just went out there and you knew that was going to happen, then you got to get on the DraftKings Sportsbook app, friends. Yeah, you know the future, you feel the future, you're feeling it in your bones, and you could have made a whole lot of money, or at least made a whole lot more fun watching your Colorado Rockies or any other sporting event that you happen to be into. Of course, Denver Nuggets getting going in the playoffs, they'll turn it around. They're fine. The Avalanche need no turning around whatsoever. They are just powering through, dudes. So
they are not going to lose a game for the entire playoffs. Maybe one in the Stanley Cup Finals. Yeah, I'm looking that far ahead.
Yeah, take the Avs to do good things. That should pay out pretty well. In baseball, you got your over-unders on strikeouts and total runs and all kinds of fun things. I always love betting on, who's going to hit a home run. Yeah, had Story in this one. Double cha-ching for you at the end of the game. Talk about a great moment if you had a little bit of cash on that. The nice payout and a Rockies walk-off win for the sweep. That's the kind of full-on adrenaline rush you can get for just hopping on that top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code DNVR when you sign up and hammer the over. For every 1,500 people that bet the over in the featured game, the line will decrease by 1 point. Yes, this is your chance to improve the odds of the over hitting. So tell your friends and family it's a full team effort. Hammer the over and improve your odds of doubling your money. That's code DNVR for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Colorado only. Restrictions apply. Max $25 wager. 1 per customer. Offer ends today. So get it in right now. It's ending right now. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700.
Yeah, boy, Jon Gray.
Yeah, boy. No, my dude. Dude.
Your dude.
Okay, let's
Look
talk
good.
about the problem first. So he had the 1 inning. It got away from him. I thought he was getting squeezed a little bit. Same time, tight zone all day. Whatever. Those pitches are strikes, but they weren't strikes in this one. I could make that rant. I've done it before. You've all heard me do it before. At the very least, it was consistent, appeasing the people who care about that. That said, that's frustrating whenever you could feel the momentum, right? It was a 1 inning situation for him. Yeah. He's losing his command a little bit. Then he's got the error from Dom Nunez, who hasn't been great defensively. And we can talk about that also if people want. But because I think he's going to be fine, spoiler alert, but he hasn't been good. And then he serves one up to Pavin Smith, and that's brutal. And that kind of washes everything else out. And you go, well, error or not, you got to make your pitch to get out of the inning. We had talked about the last time he had gotten himself into some trouble at Coors Field, bases loaded. They hand the ball to Robert Stevenson. He's not out there. And we all went, give him the chance to get out of his own mess. And then there's like, he gave up the home run anyway. That said, he did still keep his team in the game. He pitched a very good ball game, gave him a chance to win, gets the no decision, but it continues to have not been terrible. That's also a quality. He's not had a single bad game all year, really. And so
still a quality start.
Yeah.
Gave up 1 hit going into that 6th inning.
Yeah.
1 hit. And I think it was only base runner was on the error because his only 2 walks came to start that inning off. His pitch count was on the low side. And, I get why you wouldn't want to have him start the next inning because you feel like maybe the wheels are coming off a little bit. But again, that might be something we see in the future. And you say, hey, but maybe he can bounce back because he did look so solid up to that point. Was getting majority of ground balls I know it was 10-2 at one point in the game, and it did end up finishing at that. So again, you like that. Just the contact wasn't that impressive off the bats of the D-backs. So again, another solid start. Like again, you say like, hey, let's start with the bad. So if the wheels fall off, and the wheels falling off is still a quality, like a true quality start, 6 innings, 3 earned runs on a game in which the Rockies still ended up winning. He didn't lose the game, right? Right. He blew the lead, but he did not lose the game for them in that sense. So again, if that's your worst case, right? If that's one of your worst starts of the year, you know Jon Gray is doing something right.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've talked before about the loss as an interesting stat as well, and avoiding taking that L, and that's a big deal also. And there have been those times in Jon Gray's career where that inning would have gotten much, much further out of control and been a 5 or 6 run inning that would have blown the game for the Rockies. And he would have taken the L, and he would have taken a big old hit to the ERA, and as it sits, where's he at? I got it right here. He is, oh, nope, that's Marquez. I'm on the Marquez game.
3.59.
3.59.
For the season.
But at Coors.
At home, obviously, it would have gone up there just a little bit, but still under 3 overall.
At home, right?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, and the bullpen didn't cough it up there. Again, Bard looked a little questionable. And interesting, again, here's something to build on. You had your 2 rookies going in there. You got an inning from Lucas Gilbreth.
Yeah.
And an inning from Jordan Sheffield, who is now sitting at a 1.72 ERA. He had 2 strikeouts there again. Was the bottom of the lineup, but Ketel Marte did come in as a pinch hitter there, I believe. And Pavin, no, he didn't. He's the leadoff. But Pavin Smith, again, was there who had tagged Gray earlier in the game. So you like what these guys are doing. And I mean, who else is Buddy going to go to? That's the thing. That's kind of, I feel like it's been a big conversation of the week a little bit. And we've only touched on it a little bit. This idea, like, what is Bud Black supposed to do? Or what could somebody else do? Or should somebody else be in here? And, ultimately the answer is no. I mean, again, the front office and Dick Monfort very, very clearly as well did put this team together for better or worse. And, Buddy's just working with what he's got. And again, in a 162 game season, we see decisions like this made all the time for all 30 teams where you can't afford to lose a guy in order to win a single game. So sometimes you might even have to put a guy in a game or leave a guy in a situation because, the downside is way worse than the upside on that, right? And you just kind of have to swallow that and say, I can't afford to lose this guy. So you make those decisions.
We were having that conversation in the Discord the other day. By the way, I want to make sure that you're signed up. You got to subscribe to the DNVR.com. You can hang out with the Discord. And someone was asking very, very earnestly, saying, Drew, I've been following a long, long time. I'm coming over. I'm trying to get into this team. And I see Yency Almonte out there really, really struggling. Like, couldn't they send him down? Wasn't, and I asked the person, who you bringing up? Who you bringing up? And the person to their credit, I actually thought threw out a great name, but it shows you the exact issue that you're talking about. It's like, well, it wasn't Jairo Diaz kind of a thing. Didn't he have that time when he was pitching really, really well, and he's got some pretty good stuff, and he's kind of stuff. And it's like, he did, yeah, but that's the exact story of Yency Almonte. That's the exact story of Yency Almonte. And he just, the last time we saw Diaz, he looked like Almonte does now at the big league level, right? And maybe arguably even worse because he couldn't hit the strike zone. At least Almonte's putting the ball over the plate and the guys are hitting it really far. To me, that's slightly less bad. I don't know why, it just is. But
relievers are already a volatile market, or they're a volatile position. Yeah. And it's just you can't figure it out. And I think the Rockies' biggest issue is playing at Coors Field, where it's, again, other teams can do it. Other teams can find those guys, find the diamond in the rough, and the Rockies have done it in the past too as well, and certainly developed some young guys. Again, based on some news that broke on Friday, I was watching the 2018 NLDS against the Brewers. We'll leave it at that. Again, subscribe to the DNVR.com. We'll talk about it in the Discord. But Harrison Musgrave, guy came out of nowhere, and he went back to nowhere, but came out of nowhere and got some got some big outs in 2018. People forget about Harrison, Musgrave, but these guys, you know, they both grow on trees and they both fall off trees.
Yeah,
right?
Totally. Ryan Spire did the exact same thing. Guy came out of nowhere in 07, became a shutdown setup man, was actually asked to pick up the very first save of his career in the postseason, did it, posted like a sub-1 ERA, and was never heard from again.
And for some people listening to this, they're going, heard from? This is the first I've even heard of him. It's just, it's so volatile. And to go back to your point, like you say, you go, all right, what about this guy down in Albuquerque? Is he a thing? Well, you know, again, unless you are there, unless you've got your eyes on him, you don't know if he's a thing. Now, even if he is a thing, the Rockies now have to do another thing, right? There's all this logistics with the 40-man roster and guys who have options and those who don't. Yes, Monte doesn't have any options. So you go, well, he's still a relatively young guy. Yes, but you can't just put him through the minors, right? The Rockies have been lucky enough to do that a few times in the recent past. You know, you think about all the times in which Drew Butera was knocked off the 40-man, went back to Albuquerque. Well, that was because none of the other 29 teams were interested in him, and you understand why, and that's fine. But a guy like Yency Almonte, who you've seen do those things that you just pointed out that Jairo Diaz did the last couple of seasons, you go, you know, there's going to be a lot of other teams that see that upside, and they'll go, yeah, we'll give him a roster spot. The Reds did it twice with Phil Deal and Ashton Godot.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's hard, and somebody else has to come off the 40-man roster,
right?
And you could lose a guy or put a guy in the IL. So there's a lot of administrative paperwork. And as we saw with the Matt Adams thing, there's a period of time where the Rockies didn't even have an administrator, right? And they've got an interim administrator there at GM and Bill Schmidt, and who's still getting the lay of the land. And he's got a draft coming up, right? And this is, and again, a lot of this is the Rockies making, and we understand that. But when you look at one singular specific issue, it's not simple and it's not specific because it has this domino effect all around the organization. And so it's difficult. And so it was really nice that Buddy today looked in his bullpen and go, no thanks, no thanks, no thanks. Hey, Lucas, you haven't made me go even whiter than I already am. And Jordan, hey, you've been pretty good. Let's put you in a big spot here.
Yeah.
Those guys came through for him today. And so pat on the back for Lucas and Jordan.
Yeah, totally. Right. And it was nice to see, again, less for the potential future, because Gilbreth and Sheffield could actually be on this team for a little while. That'll be really
absolutely.
Bardo may be coming near the end of his career, we assume pretty soon, though he's still hitting that 99 with ease. The stuff isn't the issue. It's clearly the command. It was an issue for him again today. It like snapped in right at the end when he needed it the most. And he threw like 3 straight pitches right on the block at the edge to get that strikeout to escape it. And so, you know, but just on a personal level, you go, yeah, well, all the stuff is still there. You want to see this guy be able to go out on a high note. I do still think, you know, we've been asking the question, you know, who do you go to? It's still got to be Bard, despite the command issues. He's going to be your end of game guy. And maybe you can even get him to turn it around with the stuff still being there. You can see it in the way he pitched today. You tighten that command up a little bit, whatever it is he needs. And maybe he is a guy you can also showcase along with Michael Gibbons and CJ Cron and get something out of. Because 99 with a wicked wipeout slider is going to play in anybody's bullpen if you can just put it in some decent spots.
Yeah, to play devil's advocate for what you're saying, Daniel Bard in the closer's role, again, you get frustrated by it, and whether or not part of the Rockies' plan is to lose games or to win games, let's just forget about that. If you know, people might at various times over the course, even just the past month, Almonte's got to be the closer. Estevez has got to be the closer. And Estevez, I shouldn't include in that group. Or you say, hey, Sheffield, 1.72 ERA, he should be the closer.
Sure.
What if you put Sheffield and maybe to a lesser extent Almonte, because he's a more veteran guy, right? He's got a couple of seasons under his belt. What if those guys blow it as the closer? Yeah. What does that do to their psyche? What does that do to the possibility of, like, when you do need Jordan Sheffield as a closer, let's say a couple of years from now, and the team starts getting back to becoming a contender, and you go, yeah, but remember 2021? He didn't look good. Remember 2021? He was a rookie. Like, he, you know, hadn't even pitched above high A ball at that point.
Right.
And you go, that's not really fair. So
that
to put
stigma kind of hung around Oberg for that kind of happened to Scott Oberg at the very beginning of his career. So you're absolutely correct. That yeah.
It's more that it's not fair to set those guys up for a situation that they might not be ready for. Now, they might be. And that's the other thing. We can debate that. We can debate, is Jordan Sheffield ready or not?
Right.
And we could look at that. And then you go, again, where do you want to err? Do you want to err on being aggressive to win a couple extra ball games? Or do you want to err on the side of caution and go, let's not lose this kid. Let's give him the 8th inning. That's still a big spot.
Totally.
And if he doesn't do it in the 8th, you don't have those lingering questions of, yeah, but we've seen him at the closer role. Clearly, he can't do it. And even that, just because a guy maybe fails his first time in that spot, doesn't necessarily mean he never will.
Totally. But
you've got that situation. That's the devil's advocate. That's where you go, damned if you do, damned if you don't a little bit. But the alternative of getting barred out of that situation could be even worse.
Yeah. Yeah. And at this point, I'm down to just see what happens and roll with it, right? So, but still, either way, sweeps and walk-offs puts big smiles on our faces. And Will reporting to us that Albuquerque also just walked off in Oklahoma City, 11-10 after being down 10-1 in the 7th inning. You love to see that huge old smile on my face. Brought to you by our friends over at Green Mountain Dental. They're located just 15 minutes outside of downtown Lakewood. They treat you like family. They know all about the sports. They've been a long-time supporter of DNVR, so you should be a long-time supporter of theirs. Get your dentistry done at our friends from Green Mountain Dental. They'll hook you up with the free Sonicare toothbrush when you schedule that cleaning, x-ray, and exam today. And you can save up for your next bit of dentistry work that you need by saving a little bit of money over at Gabi.com. GABI stands for Get a Better Insurance, and you should go to GABI.com/DNVR. You'll spend less than 10 minutes there. And after that, if you're like me, you'll save at least $480. On average, people are saving $960. Our guy, Eric Weedham, saved over $1,000. And that's because you're probably just paying too much for your home or your car insurance. Takes you less than 10 minutes to figure it out on Gabi.com. You don't get any text messages or emails or phone calls, any of that nonsense. They just hook you up with a whole bunch of quotes. You pick the one you like the best, and boom, saving money. Simple as that. Check them out. GABI.com/DNVR. All right, Patrick, we also got, generally speaking, pretty good starting pitching out of the Rockies all series. One of the best games we've seen so far out of our men. Marquez going 7 innings, coming up with the 8 strikeouts. Walked 3 guys. I'd like to see that at 2, but again, I feel like I'm always picking on Marquez to be a little bit better. But still, the 4.82 ERA. We gotta get that down somehow. 0 earned runs in this one, though. Only 4 hits to get the Rockies started off on one of their most convincing wins of the season. The first game of the set, the 7-1 on 10 hits. Arizona only able to come up with that singular run. So you go, pretty good outing there all the way around. But Marquez inching, I think, closer and closer back to that dominant version of himself that we've seen in the past.
It's interesting how he's been able to get that ERA down to where it's at now at 4.82, because after the damage that he did in a couple of those starts, you go, 4.82 is, I think that's respectable at, for a typical Rockies starter, going at Coors Field, but to go, 2/3 of an inning against San Francisco back earlier in the month, giving up those 8 runs, you go, wow, okay, that's manageable. Now you can play with that. Again, you're probably out of range, probably, but not guaranteed, probably out of range, for being an all-star this season. Again, a lot more would definitely need to go right. But regardless, you go 4.82, all right, that's doable. He's he could even get below 4, I could see, by the all-star break in general. So yeah, he's figuring it out a little bit, and paying the price for that outing and just not being able to get out of the first. And I think, a lot of people on the Front Range are feeling the same way about Herman, where the expectations are high. So you hold them to that standard, and, and he's bouncing back, and he's been able to, to kind of get part of what's been making him successful back. But you're right. He's got to cut down on those walks, a lot more, but the contact was a lot weaker there on Friday night, and he was cruising along really nicely. And so much like with Senzatella on Saturday, both those two gentlemen are building off of, kind of a tough go earlier in the month. Senzatella more about, coming off the injured list. But
Right.
Senzatella kind of, I like those two guys going back to back of anything you can do, I can do better. They're kind of 1 and 2 there right now in the rotation of those future elements again. With Gray, free agent after this year, Freeland on the IL. Those two guys play really nicely together, and it's not going to be the last time we see both of them kind of dominate in a certain fashion like they did on Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, I agree. I like that kind of tandem. I like Senzatella seems to be working back into it as well. I think both of those guys are still searching for those best versions of themselves that they've been, but are getting close to it. In fact, Senzatella seems to have unlocked a few extra miles per hour on the fastball, which is really interesting. The last few starts, he's hit 99 a couple of times, which I couldn't ever remember him doing before. Kind of sitting on 97 with the fastball in some of these outings, and he seems to have less command of it. So I'm not sure it's a great thing. I think he maybe needs to learn when to reach back for that extra, and that can be tough too, because when you're trying to place instead of throw, that's a whole command problem too. But he seemed more wild with it. But I'm very intrigued by the future of Antonio Senzatella's fastball, because okay, you start putting that in the right spot, that's a real problem of a pitch, man.
And he nearly did it yesterday. He's becoming Randall K. Orton-esque. 32 minutes, 4 seconds. Because he's becoming like the legend killer, right? We saw it last year.
Yeah.
He got the first notch in his belt, if you will, in that Zach Greinke game. And he was doing it yesterday against Mad Bum, who, I was getting the sense of like, all right, since there's a no-hitter every day, there's a 1 in 15 chance it'll be today. Bumgarner has been really good. I think he had like a 1.74 ERA over his last 6 starts, was just incredibly dominant. And the first inning, second inning, I think even the third inning, he looked really good.
Yeah.
And again, hey, Rockies broke out. They hung in there. They did the thing. But Senzatella, 5 innings pitched, one earned run, I believe he had, and had a little rough time there in the 6th, but or at the beginning of the 5th. But there, he looked solid as well, and he had to do it with runners on base. That was the other thing too, just giving up these little singles. I think he even walked about at one point, but was able to do it with runners on base, and you could just see that intensity build of like, he's going to be a guy that, again, other teams are going to be knocking on the Rockies' door, and they might say, hey, we know Marquez has a slightly more friendly contract, right? Because he has guaranteed money, whereas Senzatella isn't guaranteed. But then again, pitching at Coors Field is going to keep your bottom line pretty low. There could be some teams that might even go out and say, let's the legend killer, Antonio Senzatella. I'd like to see what this guy does down the stretch in September, maybe in the postseason. And it would be interesting to know if maybe there's at least one suitor out there. We know Marquez has the better pedigree, but there could be one team out there that might say, we want Senzatella more than Marquez. Is that crazy to say?
No, I mean, I don't think it is.
I don't think it'll happen. Neither of those guys are going to get traded.
It's that your audience, your potential audience gets smaller and smaller the more specific you got there, right? You've got half the teams in baseball, I earnestly don't believe, have any idea how to properly analyze Rockies players to begin with. You've just got like that problem. And one of those teams is the Colorado Rockies, by the way.
Just so happens to be.
And then you've got teams that there's a thing here that they've got to account for, but aren't entirely sure what to do with. So they'll go for the superstars. You acquire a Trevor Story or a Nolan Arenado or a whatever for sure, or even the guys with the very solid resumes. But I do think pitching. I just don't. We'll see. I guess I'm waiting for the day that somebody offers what looks what is actually a fair and reasonable package for a pitcher like a Jon Gray or a Germán Marquez, or if it was Senzatella, it'd be interesting because I'm not sure what he's really fully worth at this point. He's still proving his ultimate value, and so it's tough to tell. I don't think you're wrong. I think in the right situation, Senzatella could be an amazing get for anybody. I also think he could be a big part of the Rockies' future if they decide that's what they want. And again, he's figuring out that Coors Field thing a little bit. You've got, Gabe Kapler and Mad Bum. I talk about it on Twitter today, but you got these guys, who are winning ball games, or Mad Bum, who's a stalwart of an era of baseball, and they just can't deal. Man, they just cannot deal with Coors Field. They just can't handle it. Out there complaining to the media about all the things that happen here. And I do wish one of these times, and I get why they don't. Like, Mad Bum has no responsibility except maybe to the brethren of the game of baseball. I just want one of these guys to one time say, man, I feel for those guys over there. As a fellow person who toes the rubber and knowing how difficult it was for me out there today, I only have to pitch at Coors Field maybe twice a year because I'm in the division. If I don't play in the division, I could never pitch at Coors Field. Strasburg won't. He refuses to. Antonio Senzatella doesn't have that damn option. And you're right. He's out there pumping his fist, pitching with guys on base, knowing there's a possibility that blooper could drop in right field. And you know what he has to do? Not hang his head and not make it. What did Mad Bum do? Let a 3-spot turn into a 6-spot real fast. And that's what you can't do at Coors Field. That's what guys like Jon Gray and Jorge De La Rosa have learned. Marquez is still learning it a bit. Senzatella is still learning it a bit. But damn, just look over there and go, whew, these guys have to deal with this all the time? Damn.
That's what life is like on the moon. And I tell you what, if Bumgarner thinks Coors Field is the moon, he should probably wish the state of Colorado was the moon, because a couple of years ago when he fell off of his rover, it would have been a lot softer of a falling. So he needs to be a little careful when he makes those comments. But you're exactly right, and that's the kind of tenacity that Rockies pitchers need. That's why I think it translates well. And I think we saw that in the last couple of years with a lot of the Rockies pitchers. I mean, look at the contract that Tyler Chatwood ended up getting from the Cubs.
True.
And you look how quickly that some of their guys get scooped up by other clubs when they're designated for assignment or whatever it is that, teams are, maybe it's because they have very strong analytical departments, maybe, or definitely, but they're able to, I think, have some value. They get it, and they say, hey, this guy is a lot better than he seems to be at Coors Field or on the Rockies. We can make him take that next step. And you saw that in this last kind of second half of the decade, is other teams saying, no, these guys are actually pretty solid, and we'll pay for that.
Yeah, we should do some deeper research on this, because this is interesting. You brought up Chatty, and that one was really funny because a lot of that was built very specifically on his splits. The fact that he was tremendously terrible at Coors Field, especially near the end of his career here. But he always had very, very solid numbers out on the road. And it was kind of believed that would translate to, if he left, then he would just be a pretty good pitcher all the time. And I guess you'd have to ask Cubs fans how well that did or didn't work out. I know he had some pretty rough years there, but salvaged some of it. But I think the contract ended up not being worth it. Tyler Anderson has been given some extra opportunities. We've seen, not really the big contract thing or whatever, but certainly opportunities to pitch for the Giants, the Pirates, and stuff like that. Well, yeah, I'd be very curious to see that, because you're right. Chatty did get the big contract, but it didn't pan out, which does not help Tyler.
LeMahieu, he didn't make bank the first time around, but did again go on to show. Ottavino definitely got paid. So other teams
was a big one.
Have taken notice. Other teams have definitely taken notice. So that's where I sort of think that could be a sneaky one where, again, I don't know what the front office
Givens
is thinking.
Will be an interesting test case. What Givens can they get for a guy like Givens?
Yeah, he looked good on Saturday's game for the first two batters, and then he walked the next two. Got a nice little double play there, and I did ask Buddy about that, if he didn't get enough time warming up because the hook on Almonte was pretty quick. Like he got 3 batters and it was like, no, he just
pitches
doesn't have it.
Through
He
8
clearly
pitches,
doesn't have it. Yeah, like that's how you know a guy doesn't have it. So
I love Yancey, but oh god.
And so again, you go, oh, you hang some of that up on Givens, and you go, well, again, he's doing what's best for his team, not for his stat line. He's not going, well, hey, I'm not ready. Get somebody else because I wasn't warmed up. I thought this was Almonte's inning. I thought he looked good in his pen. I was ready to go, in the 8th. So, those kind of things can certainly happen, and you just kind of you take the good, you take the bad, you take the rest, and then you have the facts of life. The facts of life.
Well done. Very, very, very well done.
If that wasn't on Nick at Night, there's going to be a lot of people of a certain generation that don't know that at all. But
no.
And shout out to Brian Servin. He hit the walk-off homer, by the way, in the 9th against Oklahoma City. Yeah.
Fantastic. Gotta appreciate that. But yeah. And also our friend Tiger fan in the comment section here on YouTube, Noah, mentioning Brendan Rodgers, making his season debut in this set. Had probably the best game of his young MLB career so far in the second game of the series, throwing out a couple of hits, couple of ribbies, couple of nice plays at second base. Looked, I think, more comfortable than we've seen him, even in the at-bats where he struck out and did some things. I think he looked like he belonged. And also he looked like somebody who knows that as long as he's healthy, he's going to get to play.
He looks like someone who knows that his backup is Eric Stamets. Yeah. For better or worse. He knows he's safe. Yeah. That's what I mean to say. He knows his job is safe. And his first at bat, not his first at bat, but when he had the RBI against Bumgarner, went the opposite way with an inside out little swing there. Mm-hmm. It was ugly looking, but he actually did what he wanted to do. Yeah. And ended up dropping in for a hit. He just wanted to get it the opposite way to move the runners over. Did that again at 2 RBI on that play and got his second hit. And it was his first game. Again, it's crazy to think that he already has over a year's worth of service time. So that means, if my math is right, they only have him for 4 more seasons going forward, which crazy. You go, wait, no, he's technically their best prospect. But no, we're talking, I think that would make him, free agent after 2025. So that is some time away, but shoot, that it's going to be around the corner before you know it. And that was his first game with 2 RBI and 2 hits. And so if he can stay healthy, he'll have a lot more of those. Hey, it's the first time that he did this. I was glad to see that there weren't too many Rockies fans, taking shots and just go, oh, only his first, or, oh, man, it took him how long to get? Right. Again, each guy's path looks different. And, his has been a difficult one, and you wanted it to not be since he was the 3rd overall pick there. But nevertheless, he can only be his own man, and he's off to a really good and solid start. So I was really happy to see that. Got the off day today. He's going to come back refreshed tomorrow against the Mets at Citi Field.
Speaking of going in to see the Mets at Citi Field, they got Austin Gomber slated to go against Thibodeau on.
They got a couple of those going this week, I think.
Yeah. Thibodeau's out there a little bit, but one thing that we're going to need to get all stocked up on our Breck Brew and Breck Celsius for. I got my Hot Peak IPA here today. Maybe grab a little Illegal Pete's as well. Definitely recommend this. It's good to do when the Rockies are at home because they get you that deal for half off with the half off of an entree. I'm sorry, half off of the margarita, the house marg, with the purchase of an entree when you show them your ticket down to Coors Field. But get some Illegal Pete's. It's delicious stuff. Get your Breck Brew. They pair together fantastically. And now it hasn't been announced, but it looks very, very likely that Tuesday night in the city that never sleeps.
Mm-hmm. Say it.
We got Jacob deGrom versus a returning and season debuting Kyle Freeland.
All of the matchups are actually really solid because Gomber, again, you like seeing him go. Slated that TBD could actually be Colorado's own David Peterson.
Hey,
that would be cool. Fun. Freeland deGrom, you like that? Marcus Stroman, yes. And then Senzatella, Lucchesi, again, the Rockies know Lucchesi pretty well from his days with the Padres. So
he's had that over the years, actually.
Yeah, so that's kind of interesting. But yeah, we get the big Freeland DeGrom matchup. Both those minor leaguers had some good starts this past week, and I've had it marked on my calendar for over a week at this point. Hoping that does go down, and Freeland getting back there under the spotlight of New York City. The Mets obviously have some juice right now. Jacob DeGrom always has juice going, no matter what, and so that'll be a fun first start that I think everyone will be happy to see him. And again, just it's in New York, so I think that's just going to be a good game where if you need to take a break from all the playoff sports and whatnot, hopefully the Avs will get it wrapped up, so you won't even be thinking about the Avs just yet as we wait to see who they're going to play in the next round. You tune into the Rockies because Freeland DeGrom, that's a nice matchup.
Those poor minor league boys that had to face Jacob. Can you imagine just being an A-ball?
Mason Winworth was the only one, I believe, that hit the ball to the outfield. He was either the only one who put the ball in play, or he hit the ball rather soundly. I think that was it.
Yeah.
He was a draft pick last year by the Cardinals. 19-year-old. You go, a 19-year-old again, who not that many people care about it, but if you've listened to this episode that long, you probably go, wait a minute, a 19-year-old kid actually just put the ball in play and got the bat against Jacob DeGrom. Kudos to you, Mason Wynn.
Totally. Like, throw that young man a parade, because that is obscene stuff to try to hit as a 19-year-old. So yeah, should be a fun set. As you mentioned, a 4-gamer out there in New York. They do it now, but good. Yeah, excellent theater where you want to have some excellent theater. So it all works out. It all pans out.
And then next weekend, 3 against Pittsburgh. This is that opportunity of the more likely we talked about. I forget what the second part was, but I know one was, are they going to have a road victory? Oh, NL Player of the Week.
Oh, yeah.
I think this is the spot. This is the Pirates, and then
go win a road series here.
And then the Rockies are back at home with a greater capacity crowds, and
that's right.
They welcome back David Dahl in Texas and the Oakland Athletics. So we kind of have the official start of summer after this week.
And some interleague play, I guess. Kick off summer with interleague play. It's always weird when it's randos, when you're just like, random. Oh, just all of a sudden playing some American League teams. All right, fair enough. It'd be good to see David back. That'll be fun. I haven't really checked in on him much. Is he having a decent year?
No. He's doing so-so. But he's not.
No.
There's probably a reason why you haven't heard too much from him, and Rockies fans banging the drum.
I was assured he was going to be an all-star this year.
Between him, Tony Walters, again, Tony Walters is just kind of hanging out there in limbo. He was designated for assignment this week by the Cubs. May have something to do with that interesting slide he had in the home plate.
Stealing home, baby. Stealing home. I don't like the Cubs have anything to write home about. There's some bad teams in baseball this year, man. And some of them are just going to get worse. So at least the Rockies are having fun, right? At least they're out there having fun. I didn't even talk about Ryan Maltapia this episode. He had a nice set.
You just did. So,
but right there. He had that one catch. Really did save game 2.
Saturday.
Oh man, that was.
That might be the play of the year, only from the defensive play, like converted on it, actually made the catch, because of when it came with the bases loaded there. Just a huge spot there. Picked up Carlos Estevez, who then went out through another inning. It was fantastic. It was funny because again they cut away to commercials, but I was at the game and watching the press box, and Carlos was like, "I think I might just wait for him. Like I'm gonna wait." Like Tapia was still on the ground. They were helping him up. Story's giving him his hat. He's feeling on his hair. He's just looked fantastic.
Yeah,
that was a huge play. That was great to see him do that.
And of course, got on base in all the games because
that's what he does.
That's what he does. So
yeah,
that was your brief episode of Tap Time. All right, folks, we really appreciate you hanging out with us for this one. It was a whole lot of fun. There's a lot more baseball coming up with us. Like we said, we're going to be watching all these games in New York and Pittsburgh, reporting back to you on all this stuff, having some good fun. We got to do a report update sometime soon on the Superstars team and invite Spence back, except we can't because we can't do it. He's killing us. You can't have Shohei Ohtani and Ronald Acuna. How did we let him do that?
Full disclosure, I created the DNVR Golf Club just to keep Spence busy. So we didn't have to acknowledge the fact he's 4 for 4 on all of his picks. It's just been amazing.
He's got absolute studs on his team. Like all of I think your team, my team, and Makayla's team are doing fine, perfectly well. But goodness, Ohtani was the pick of the draft so far. I mean,
it is.
Yeah, Ohtani's the pick of the baseball season so far. He's been great.
He's been electric. Yeah. He's been electric. See if the Rockies can stay electric. Go 4 in a row.
Stay electric. No, forget all of that. Thank you all for hanging out with us for this one. Make sure you are chilling with us on YouTube for these series wraps. You're hitting that bell icon, the like button, all that stuff to make sure you know when we're going live. You're subscribed to the DNVR.com because when you do that, you get access to all the written content. Plus, you get discounts on hats, shirts, masks, a bigger beer when you come down to the DNVR bar. And when you sign up for the annual right now, we'll hook you up with a free shirt from the DNVR Locker and a free holistic stick from our friends at Holistic Wellness. You should check them out at HOLISTIK wellness.com. We'll get you that free 10 milligram CBD stick. But then after that, use promo code DNVR30 to get 30% off everything else there. Do become a member of the family. Hang out with us in the Discord so that we can keep the chat going 24/7. Also talking movies, TV, video games, hockey, playoffs, stuff that's going on. So we appreciate each and every single one of you for being some of the absolute best baseball fans in the entire world. We promise to just keep being absolutely Patrick Lyons and a Drew Creasman. And until next time, we will see you at the ballpark.